it's from my mother's womb, thou art my God, well, what does that tell you about abortion?
You're killing people.
You're killing people. Killing people, right? A person is a child of God, is made in the image of God from conception. Always the Christian faith always believed that. I believe that also. I mean, it was a sin to abort a child in the Jewish faith too.
I saw something that said there's been more deaths by abortion since it was invented in like the 60s or whatever. Than all the deaths and all the wars ever.
Yes. Yes.
By a lot. It's not even close.
It's not even close. It's not even close. Now, I say this, and I always have to put a caveat out, okay? Because there's always a possibility somebody's had an abortion, or their girlfriend had an abortion, or they know somebody who had an abortion, and there's grief about that. And it's good to experience grief in a positive way. It's terrible to experience grief all alone, like just feeling like, oh my God, I've killed my child. What do you do with that? Well, here's what you do with that. You come talk to me, and you talk to God, and I will offer you things that they work. So yes, it was a sin, but God forgives every sin. And I will tell you that if you've been party to an abortion in any way, or even if a loved one that you know has had an abortion, and that's a heavy piece of information, don't just let it hang there. Pray for people who've had abortions. Pray for people who've had abortions. Just like that. And that will help you very much. If you're a former drug addict, pray for people who are drug addicts. If you served in the military, pray for those in the military. If you know somebody who's committed suicide, pray for not only that person, but also others. And maybe pray for people that are thinking of suicide this day, right now. Just in this country, there are probably 10,000 people that are considering, maybe 100,000, right now that are considering suicide this day. Now, not all of them are going to do it, but probably way over 100 are going to do it today, right? 100 or 200. What a terrible thing. So when you have terrible things happen to you, either that happen to you personally or people you love, pray according to this experience. That will help you immensely. Everything can be recovered from. I was recently given some information about birth control. And I don't want to distribute it to people just willy-nilly. And I kind of got in trouble for it. The person thought that maybe I don't want to do the proper teaching about it. No, I do. But the teaching is this, that if you take, meaning women, if women take birth control pills, right? These estrogen and progesterone and whatever else is in there. What it does is it depresses ovulation. So if there's no ovulation, there's no egg, there's no way to get pregnant. But it doesn't always do that. It also, with ovulation, before ovulation comes the building up of the spongy membrane around the corpus luteum, which is it's called the corpus luteum. It is so that the egg, when fertilized, can implant there and grow, and it becomes the placenta, right? It's the only organ I know of that grows, right? I mean, that like you have a placenta, then you don't have a placenta. You have a placenta for every pregnancy, right? It's like we have a liver, we just keep our liver. When a woman has a placenta, and then birth, and then after another pregnancy, she has another placenta. Well, it's impossible for the egg to implant if that lining has not been prepared. The birth control pill also impairs that. So primarily it stops ovulation, but it also stops the preparation of the uterus to receive a fertilized egg. So if the egg somehow is still goes down the fallopian tube, it still has ovulation, and pregnancy occurs, then that fertilized egg has no place to implant, And that is what's called, and medically it's called a spontaneous abortion. It's not one that you plan, that you purposely do. It's when the body rejects that egg, it's not possible to live. That is an abortion. Okay? Now, it happens naturally all the time. Women constantly are getting an egg fertilized, but their uterus is not a hospitable environment for that egg, and it just, she has a period and goes away. She doesn't even know that she was pregnant. She might have been pregnant for a few hours or a day and not even know. But if you do something that purposely can make your uterus unable to bear a child, then that's a spontaneous abortion that was of your doing, that's not natural. And some people cannot deal with that information. I only want to tell people that when I can talk to them and say, that's happened, if you've taken the pill for 10 years, 20 years, and you don't know how many babies have been spontaneously aborted, then just repent of it. Say, God, forgive me that I've done it. Stop taking the pill. Start praying for people who've had abortions or people who are taking the pill now. That's a solution. But I know of one person, I don't know her personally, but I know in one of our parishes, that a woman started weeping when this material was distributed. She started weeping and saying, I've killed my children. I murdered my children. Now, fortunately, there's a very good pastor in that church, and he talked to her. But what if she had just read that material at home and not talked to anybody and says, I'm a murderess. Maybe 100 times I'm a murderess. And then she would have no recourse, right? She would just be filled with depression. So that's why I don't just send people this material without talking to them first. And that's why always when I mention abortion, and I think a pastor always should be mentioning abortion, it is everywhere. It's everywhere. And a woman who's had an abortion, or a man who's paid his girlfriend so that she can get an abortion, or a grandfather or a mother or whatever it is involved in the abortion, that they have an opportunity then to repent of that sin and be cleansed of that sin. I used to do prayers in front of abortion clinics. I did a lot of it. And I would just be praying the Jesus prayer the whole time. Or certain psalms that are sort of pro-life psalms in my mind. And there was this one place, it was called Robinson's. It's gone now. It was down by that medical complex where there's Southwestern and all that stuff. And it was in such a situation that the people had to walk right past us on the sidewalk to get to the door of Robinson's. And I never saw any bad interactions. People would say hello to us and stuff like that. And nobody ever accosted anybody. I never heard anybody yelling, you're a murderer, or any of that. None of that. So all that stuff that the left and the crazy people want to say is done in front of abortion clinics, I never saw any. I just saw kindness. I never saw one altercation ever. But I would see them walking, and generally there was a woman who looked very sad, kind of nervous, and there was somebody that was holding her shoulder, either behind her or right next to her, but that was physically holding her shoulder. Almost looked like she was being pushed into the clinic. It was usually, it was often, looked like a mother or a grandmother. And oftentimes I just saw what I thought was the father sitting in a car across the street smoking a cigarette waiting. They never came in with her. They never came in with her. They always had somebody else do it. And then I'd see the woman come out later, and they'd come out through the back, but we could see them then come up to the parking. They'd have to still cross us. And their eyes were dead. There was a deep, deep black sadness in their eyes. I saw this again and again and again and again. And I never believed really that, of course, what the world wants you to say is that I'm pro-choice. I never believed that a lot of women were making free choices. Many times they're making a choice that somebody else is making for them. A mother saying, you've got to get rid of this child because you're in school, or a boyfriend saying, it's not right time for us, or whatever it is, right? So many times I saw that played out because I saw a woman that didn't look like she wanted to walk through the door. And then after, an hour and a half, she comes out and her eyes, they were like dead. So I've seen that personally. And I think as Christians, we have to confront that. Don't listen to the lies about abortion. It's not about choice. It's about choosing life or choosing death. And when a woman chooses death either on her own or she's forced to choose death, then there are repercussions in the soul about that. Terrible repercussions. And the only way to be cleansed of something like that is to be able to admit it. It's a hard thing to say, I killed my child. I don't want to get the shirt that says I shouted out my abortion. People wear those things, because they have to convince themselves that what they did was good. What they did was praiseworthy. It's not praiseworthy, but it's also not something that should be condemning them. They just need to be sorry. They need to make amends in their heart. They need to say, I'm not going to have another abortion. I'm also not going to be promiscuous in a way, in any way, that obviously can lead to more pregnancies. I'm going to not do this because this is not only against God's law, but it is against human life. It's against my life. Because if I don't live in a godly way, I can't have any happiness. So golly, we got a big rant from that, didn't we?